Hey guys, it's Mr. Kopitsky. I want to talk a little bit about writing in economics. You have two FRQs that you're going to work on this week. It's our Thursday and Friday block. It's not an overly cumbersome amount of work, but there are some nuances to writing in economics that we have to get right, and we have to get it right from the get-go. Economics FRQs are not hard in the sense that they're not the rubrics aren't based on a 5-paragraph, well-crafted, erudite, scholarly essay. We're looking for a few very basic points here, and the points have to be present, though, to get full credit. Let me tell you what I mean. Look at this little acronym I have for you. It's our favorite little acronym. It's GOOS. You want to put GOOS all over your paper. Okay? GOOS. You need a graph. If there's a graph you can use for AP Economics, for a question, you must graph it to get full credit. If it says graph or construct, you have to use a graph, okay? The next one is equation, right? Equation and economic terms. That's our E. You may have to use an equation. If you do, you have to write the equation down. Okay? You've got to memorize the equations that we use. You're going to have to memorize the graphs that we use. We're going to use them on the AP exam, and you have to recall them and reconstruct them from memory. So there's a lot of work to do on that front. But if there's an FRQ and it said something to the effect of, how does the A and B corporation determine the correct balance of capital and labor to maximize profitability or minimize costs? You need to have the equation there. And when you write, use our economic terms. Don't say, the product gets to the people that want it and that makes everybody happy. Talk about allocative efficiency. Talk about the invisible hand. Use the terminology that we use in our class, okay? The only analytical devices explain why. That's really the only thing you're going to have to do as far as analysis goes in our FRQs. A causes B, why? What's the causation? What's the linkage? Explain that in your FRQ, and just in a sentence or two. You know, you don't have to write a lot. As we'll see as you look at the rubric as we go on, a graph, sometimes even just single, you know, an equation with some work and an answer is what you're looking for. But a sentence or two explaining why is all you're going to need. It's going to be bullet pointed. It's going to be, from a writing standpoint, technical writing standpoint, very easy. And the last one, show your work, okay? If there's any mathematical computations that need to be done, you have to show your work. You have to show how you got them. And it seems silly, even if it's, you know, a simple adding up 3 or 4 numbers, but that's part of the rubric. A couple other things I'll say on the graph. All your axes must be labeled. You must label your axes and label all your curves to get credit, or you'll not get credit. If there's any change or shift, you have to show that shift with an arrow, and label your curves P sub 1, or for example, demand and demand sub 1, demand sub 2, demand and demand prime, something along those lines. And there's some flexibility there. They may give you some directives on the FRQ prompt on how they want it labeled, whether it's demand and demand prime, or demand sub 1, demand sub 2, demand 1 and 2, and such tend to be the more utilized nomenclature today. But, you know, anyway, to make a long story short, when you graph, you must show the curves, the direction they're moving, label your curves, label your axes. It all has to be labeled perfectly to get credit. Let me just pull up a rubric here while we're chatting, and I'll show you what a rubric looks like for an AP micro FRQ, okay? There's a graph. This is a graph of a monopoly, of an imperfect competitor. I suppose it could be a monopolistic competition, but it's graphed more like an oligopoly. Anyway, to make a long story short, look what we have. We've got the price, we have our curves labeled, price and cost, and everything is labeled and annotated correctly, okay? If I move down, you can see that we might have to do some shading. You'll do those on graphs, label areas like deadweight loss here on the monopoly. Let's go down to one that's not a graph. If you look here, we're looking at total benefit. Let me highlight this as we talk. Look how they do it, okay? 1 point is earned for calculating Dana's total benefit, and it is added up, just like this one down here, Dana's total consumer surplus. We'll do those calculations down the road, but look for each one, and down here we've got an equation of marginal benefit maximization relative to price between two items. In other words, here's the work that they've done, there's the equation. This is what your FRQs are going to look like, okay? Here's percent change. You're doing the percent change for elasticity. It's again, not complicated writing, but you have to enter the econ mindset and show the reader that you not only can label the graphs, that you know what the curves are, why they're moving, explain whatever phenomena is occurring on the graph, but also use equations and show your work whenever you're doing any calculations. So we're going to give it a go this week, as they say, and we will do a couple FRQs. Down the road, we'll be doing more FRQs. Some will just be some practice, and I'll have videos that walk you through how to do them with the rubrics, and we'll have question and answer periods. We have a question and answer period this week on Friday. If there's anything you didn't understand, we're not doing a lot of new content this week. The week of the 14th, we'll be doing a little bit on allocation and command and capitalist systems, but that's not exceptionally hard. We're going to focus mostly on graphing and getting our graphs correct for the future. So good luck. See you soon.